Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nikki Kruger, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Santa Fe Dehumidifiers. I've got Dan Strong joining me today. He led the engineering and development of our new V-Series dehumidifiers, and we're very excited to share these new products with you and dive into a little bit more depth on their features. We will have a Q&A on this webinar, so feel free to go ahead and write your questions in. If we have time at the end, we'll address them. If not, when we wrap up this webinar with an email to you with the link to the video and everything else, we'll go ahead and address some of those questions also. All right. So today we're going to be discussing the new V100, V125, and V155 dehumidifiers. We'll also talk about the V205. We're going to dive into our new eco technology, which is really innovative energy efficiency technology we've incorporated into a couple of these units. And why the V? Why the V100? Why the V series? We're going to go ahead and talk about our warranty, and then at the end we'll wrap up with some resources. So first of all, Thermistor is the company that manufactures Santa Fe dehumidifiers. Santa Fe is our residential brand of whole house ventilating and freestanding dehumidifiers. We also manufacture Quest, which is our commercial line of dehumidifiers, and then Phoenix Restoration Equipment. We are located in Madison, Wisconsin, and that's where our factory is. So why the V? The Santa Fe V series, the V stands for ventilation. We have actually incorporated into these new units an 8-inch ventilation duct, allowing for us to bring in more outdoor air in order to meet 62.2 requirements. So you can see on the left side here with those, the V100, 125, and 155, we've got that 8-inch there up on top. And then on the V205, it's on the top off a little bit to the left. And we're going to dive in later to why we really need those 8-inch ventilation ducts. Now, it is important also to mention that you don't have to use the ventilation on any of these units. Just like our prior whole house ventilating dehumidifiers that had the 6-inch ventilation duct, it's always optional. You don't have to use. On the style here, the units will arrive with a plate over that in the ventilation duct in the box. And then on that V200, it's very similar to our older units with the 6-inch ventilation duct where there's a damper inside that can be closed off. So what's really amazing about these the V100, V125, and the V155 is they all have the same size footprint, meaning their cabinet is all exactly the same size, which makes it very easy for engineers and for you in the field to be able to walk into a home or work with builders and understand that for these three models, really the room that you're going to need to install them is all the same size. So the V100 is replacing the Ultra 98. The Ultra V125 is replacing the Ultra 120, and then the Ultra V155 is replacing the older model of the Ultra 155. And all of these units have met Energy Star's requirement for most energy efficient 2025. And you can see there up in the left-hand corner, I have indicated that the refrigeration that we're using in these units is the R54B refrigeration. And this V155, we talked about in the agenda that we're going to discuss the eco technology, and this is one of the units that is using that new eco technology that we're going to dive into a little bit more. So the dimensions of these units, very compact and narrow, 14.35 inches in width, and then you can see that we're 39.2 in length, and in height we're 24 inches. This dimension, that 14.35, allows us to fit in between floor joists. So it makes it really easy to be able to set these into places that might be a little bit tighter for installation. And then all of our cabinets now have R2 insulation in them. This does help tremendously with sound from the unit, as well as minimizing the potential for condensation when we're placed in vented attics or vented crawl spaces. So diving into the data about these units here, you can see at the capacity on top, we always give you the 80-60, but then we also give you the DOE rating of the 73 degrees and 60% relative humidity, which is very important to know when you are sizing dehumidifiers for applications, to be more realistic about what's the true capacity that you're going to get at those different temperatures and RHs. So that Ultra 100 becomes 82 pints, the Ultra V125 101 pints, and then the V55 128 pints. Still a lot of capacity, but important to point that out. Now the efficiency is really where these units shine, especially looking at that Ultra V155. I mean, you have 7.1 pints per kilowatt hour. That's a lot of dehumidification for very little energy use. And again, that eco technology is really helping us with that. And then we do size our units conservatively on square footages. We'd rather have you have a little bit more capacity than you need, but that V100 about 2,300 square feet, the V125 about 3,000 square feet, and then that V155 up to 35,000 square feet, or 3,500 square feet, excuse me. And again, that's up to. So if you're right on the line, you might want to move up to the next size. And then airflow is also where these units really shine. We were able to incorporate a stronger blower into these units, and that was really to be able to overcome the statics that we are seeing on a lot of our higher performance HVAC systems. Also, retrofit is, we're very commonly used and called to fix problems. And, that ductwork, that existing ductwork might not be able to traditionally handle a whole house ventilating dehumidifier, but now we've got this fan. Now, we should always be fixing ductwork when possible, but understanding that we do have some more blower capacity on these. And what's really amazing is these are the first dehumidifiers on the market that we are actually giving you the ventilation rates at the different static pressures. So you have a better idea of what to expect when you are going in and wanting to provide ventilation for these homes, what you're going to be able to get out of these units at those different statics. All of them include MERV 13 ventilation. That is standard on all of our units. And we have incorporated a dew point cutout of 40 degrees on our new units as well. So Dan, I'm going to have you tackle our new 8-inch duct on these the 100, 125, and the 155, because I know that we've got some out in the field and there's been some questions on this new material.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nikki. Just to dive into the ventilation duct a little bit more, it is different than our traditional polypropylene hard plastic ductwork that we've used in the past. And the reason we did that is we wanted a unique shape in order to keep the size of the unit small, but still have a round duct to attach to. That's the common practice in the industry, and we wanted to accommodate that. So we came up with this material. It's called expanded polypropylene. And it's kind of like a foam. It's lighter than a hard plastic, but it's insulative, so you don't need to worry about insulating the strained shape as it goes from the round to the oval of the machine. It has a V0 flame rating to meet all the requirements around anything in the airstream with a refrigerant in it. It's chemical resistant. The density is quite low, but really what shines on here is the strength of the duct. And so a couple ways to measure this is tensile strength. That's the kind of idea of pulling the duct apart. And it's about 67 PSI. And if you try to put that in perspective, I have PS is about 25 PSI. That's polystyrene, so that's styrofoam like you'd see in packaging and stuff like that. So it's almost twice as strong of just pulling it. But where it really shines is that tear strength. So the tear strength is 3.5 compared to polystyrene, which is 0.00016. So it's about 2 million% stronger than polystyrene, what you would find in regular packaging. So this thing is very robust. You can smush it. You can use when you're attaching ductwork, you can screw into it. You can use straps around it, and it'll hold up just fine. But it is a kind of a newer material. This is also talked about as being structural foam. The HVAC industry is starting to pick this up a little bit more just because it's quite cost effective and also very durable and strong. So it was a great choice for this application of the complex geometry we had to accomplish, and hopefully it makes it very easy to install.
Yeah, it's been very well received by our contractors already. So thank you, Dan.
Yep.
So these new units also have a onboard digital controls. It's important to point out that a lot of these new features that we have added to these units have been ones that several of you have requested over the years. And Dan went out and did a lot of market research, spent a lot of time in the field in order to incorporate a lot of these features that we're going to be pointing out on these units. And the first one is this digital onboard control. As you can see here, there's a turn on button on the left there, and then that little water droplet button up, you're going to push that to select your RH setting between 40 and 60%. So we've kept it in increments of 5 just because we know a lot of times when we have hygrometers in our homes that there's going to be a discrepancy in what those potentially are reading and what we've got the unit set at. So that way it helps prevent any callbacks if you set it at 55 and the homeowner is saying it's 58% RH in my house. So that gives us a little bit of leeway there. So you can run the fan on auto, which means it'll only run when the dehumidifier and compressor is running to remove moisture, or you can also run it on continuous as well. And then with that 40-degree dew point cutout that we talked about as a new feature, the RH set point that you have it set on will flash when the dew point is below 40 degrees dew point. And that dew point really is important because it's a great feature that will extend the longevity of the dehumidifiers, but prevent it from going into defrost mode as much as well. And then next we have our terminal block. And you'll see on here that we have a lot of features that sometimes you don't see on other dehumidifiers. Most importantly, that 20-volt AC, where you are able to wire a motorized damper directly to the dehumidifier. We also have floats, so you can wire external float switch directly to the unit. And then we also have what you see there is what you don't commonly see is RS. And that's for a new Santa Fe Smart Air remote RH sensor that we have launched with these units that we'll talk about as well. And we've incorporated air codes into these units as well to be able to efficiently and quickly diagnose if there is an issue. And these are all airs that are going to be critical, meaning that the dehumidifier is not functioning and removing water. And so we're not going to send out, air codes for minor things that aren't going to affect the dehumidifier to help prevent callbacks to the field. So you can see here what it'll be is a series of lights that'll flash. And we've got these in our manuals and also on the website, so you'll be able to quickly know what's going on with those. And this is that new remote sensor that I had talked about. This is will work with the V100, the 125, and the 155. And this is a smart air remote sensor that can be wired up to 100 feet from the dehumidifier. And as you can see here, it's about 2 inches by 2 inches. This can be placed in the living space, wired directly to the terminal block on the dehumidifier. And then on that dehumidifier, on that digital onboard control, you can just set the relative humidity between 40 and 60%. And whenever this remote sensor senses that it is above whatever you have selected, it'll automatically activate that dehumidifier, and kind of keeps this a bigger control out of the living space. It can be painted as well, and adds a lot of versatility on where it can be placed. We have incorporated a dedicated float switch port on these units. You'll see it right here above the drain port. You can install a float switch on this. And again, we talked about how this can wire directly to the terminal block, to those float terminals. And if for some reason that dehumidifier drain were to back up, it would automatically activate the float and shut off the dehumidifier. We've got a new base on these units. It's a molded plastic base with built-in handles, making it much easier to maneuver in tight spaces, of course. And then also we've incorporated channels for our new hang kit. It's our medium hang kit that will go with these units. We've got a rotatable supply collar on these units, so you can go from a horizontal airflow discharge to a vertical discharge, making it easier, especially when we see this in applications where we've got a upright HVAC system that we want to tie into. That really helps being able to discharge out the top of the dehumidifier. And now on to the Ultra V205. You can see this one is differently designed than the others that we talked about, but this is a pretty big girl for capacity wise. This design replaces our old Ultra 205. This one has incorporated the new eco technology, which we're going to talk about. It has met Energy Star's most efficient for 2025. And this one is using that R54, 454B refrigerant as well, and is engineered and assembled in Madison, Wisconsin, just like the other units. So at 73 and 60% relative humidity, this is a 173 pint dehumidifier. Very energy efficient. 6.3 pints at that 7360, but 7.5 at 8060. She can remove a lot of moisture when running, and up to about 5,000 square feet. Where we really see this one utilized is in a lot of light commercial applications. Most of the time in our residential applications, homes that are about 5,000 square feet are going to have more than one HVAC system. So we like to put a smaller dehumidifier on each system, but sometimes we can't do that. So in that application, we would want a bigger unit like this on the main system of the house. And again, we can get a lot of ventilation, at 0.4 inches of static, we can still get 183 CFM of ventilation going into this through this dehumidifier. And it has the MERV 13 filter. And again, we have that 40 degree dew point cutout incorporated to this unit as well.
Nikki, I was just going to add on that one. We're talking about efficiency and all these
Yes.
things. The reason for this particular unit it's quite important is if you look at the power consumption, it's about 1,100 watts. That's capable of being installed on a 15 amp circuit,
Yes.
dedicated 15 amp circuits, which really makes this quite impressive. All the units actually you've talked about so far, dedicated 15 amp circuit is more than enough.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. And here's the dimensions of the Ultra V205. It is a little bit more compact, just different designed than our older unit of the Ultra 205. And you can see that damper here for the ventilation that can be closed and taped off if you're not going to use it. And the flow from this goes through this front side here, and this is what you would see on the back side of the unit. So this unit does have a digital control also. It is different than the one on the V100, 125, and 155. This control is digital, so you can actually set the RH directly on this. It does have a defrost indicator. Dark mode, if you don't want that RH level to illuminate. We've got a fan mode, and again, this one does have a terminal block on it as well. And that's what this terminal block would look at. So again, we've got the float here, and we are able to wire directly to this unit a motorized damper for our ventilation strategy directly to the dehumidifier. And this one, we're going to give you some air codes as well. These are all going to be displayed with an E and a number next to them. And we will indicate to you as well which one of these would be more of a critical code, meaning that the unit is no longer producing water, and what needs to be addressed immediately. And different than all of our other units, you are actually able to use a 3/8 threaded rod directly on this unit in order to be able to hang it. So you do not have to purchase a separate hang kit to go with this unit. I always like to address installs. This is our recommended install for all of our whole house ventilating dehumidifiers when possible, is to have that dedicated return directly to the dehumidifier. Again, we have that ventilation duct. It's always optional. You don't have to use it. And then we like to tie in the supply of the dehumidifier to the supply side of the HVAC system, ideally at that 45-degree angle with that backdraft damper in that duct line as well. This allows us not to have to use the fan on the HVAC system when the dehumidifier is running when we set it up this way. And it also, when we look at static pressure of a system, if we don't have to pull from the HVAC return to the dehumidifier and then back from the supply of the dehu back into the HVAC system, we only really have to worry about that static on that supply side when installing these. So now we're going to jump into the new eco technology, which really is the whole focus of this technology is efficiency. So if you have been using our Ultra 155, 205 in the past, you might be familiar that these units had a air-to-air heat exchanger inside of them. And what that allowed us to do is pre-cool the incoming air with air off of the evaporative coil, and we could get to dew point faster using less energy. So we would bring in the outdoor air, the return air, it would go through the evaporative back down, and you can see this path right here that we were pre-cooling this incoming air with the air that was leaving before it went to the condensing coil. And this allowed us, again, to be able to remove a lot of water using a lot less electricity. And we've been able to now take that concept, same concept, and incorporate it into a patented dual-coated 3-coil system that we're naming the Efficiency Capacity Coil Optimization, or ECO technology. And this, again, allows us to maximize that energy efficiency into a much more compact, smaller cabinet as well. And this technology is about 30% more energy efficient versus the standard 2-coil system. And we're going to jump into what this kind of looks like inside the box. So this first coil here is our pre-evaporative coil. And what this does is when the air is coming into it, it's going to pre-cool this incoming air by about 10 to 15 degrees. So similar to what our heat exchanger, our heat exchanger core did in our older units. And then when it hits that evaporative coil, it's going to go 15 degrees below dew point to really extract that water. And then it's going to go through that third coil. Now, when it's coming out of these three coils, we've got about a 30% grain depression going from when it going in to coming out. And that's even before it goes to the condenser. And so again, this 3-pack of coils really allows us to remove a lot more water, more energy efficient. Do you have anything to add on that, Dan?
No, I think the amazing thing about this technology though is just the compactness of the size, right? Like
Yes.
you see, that air-to-air heat exchanger was great, but bulky. This really takes that and shrinks it down and is very efficient to build and stuff like that. So it's a great way to get that efficiency without adding a lot of complexity to the system.
And this first coil and third coil are microchannels coils, correct?
Yep, coated
Yep.
microchannel, so we still protect them, but there shouldn't be any water on them. But we want to make sure that they're protected because they are on the airstream.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
So when we talk about it being more compact to use, um, our previous units, you can see on the left here, this was the 155 and quite large, 28 by 28 by 42 in diameter and 140 pounds. And our new unit, 155, is 14 and a half wide by 24 by just over 39 in diameter, and it's only 112 pounds. So it is, we've reduced the size of that 155 by about 40% with that smaller cabinet. And then obviously working in HVAC, working in installs and attics, it's dramatically reduced the weight of that unit as well. So now we're going to get into the ventilation and really the main focus of why that V series. So when we look at our homes, and we've all seen the statistics of what's going on with the indoor air quality, but indoor air quality has been ranked among the top 5 environmental risks of public health by the EPA. 50% of all illnesses are caused or aggravated by indoor air pollution. 1 in 5 people either have allergies or asthma. 200% higher allergy rate levels in super insulated home as compared with ordinary homes. And 6 out of 10 homes are hazardous to their occupants' health. So if you're in the industry or have been in the industry for a while, you have known that there has been a lot of focus on indoor air quality. ASHRAE 62 is addressing this. And so we really wanted to invest the ventilation feature of our new units into being able to address these issues. So 49, what's 49? The International Residential Code, the IRC, includes requirements for whole house mechanical ventilation in homes that are less than 5 ACH air changes per hour. And this is adopted by across 49 states in the US, the District of Columbia, and several other territories. So if you are building higher performance homes, energy efficient homes, which again, could be just meeting code. That's how tight our houses and energy efficient they are getting now. In 49 of these areas, you have to include mechanical ventilation. And this includes detached 1 and 2 family dwellings and townships over 3 stories. And the reason for this is ventilation dilutes and removes pollutants. It reduces CO2, VOCs, dust, allergens, and odors, preventing buildup that causes respiratory issues, allergies, and fatigue. So indoor air quality is extremely important to homeowners more and more. and something that we need to be effectively and efficiently addressing for them. Now, 700,000. In 2023, 700,000 households claimed the tax credit specifically for insulation and air sealing investments. And the number is probably more around 1 million households that actually upgraded their insulation and air sealing if we look at DIY jobs and then not claiming the tax credit. So as soon as we start tightening up our homes, existing homes, we're going to have to address the indoor air quality. And probably there probably wasn't any ventilation added on that home, or if there was ventilation, it probably wasn't effective. So these new units really allow us to be able to incorporate getting that effective, energy efficient ventilation into these homes. And how that ventilation works, I have this conversation quite a bit. When we bring in that outdoor air through our dehumidifiers, we're not putting 100% outdoor air into our HVAC system ducts. When our fan comes on and pulls the air from the outdoor, opens up that motorized damper, it also pulls return air from the home and mixes that air in the dehumidifier box before it is distributed throughout the ductwork and throughout the entire home. And this allows us to temper that air before it makes its way. Now, when you set up the ventilation schedule on the dehumidifier, either using our GH3000 controller or another ventilation device, it's going to activate the fan for ventilation. It's not going to automatically activate the compressor of the dehumidifier when we're ventilating. So our air conditioning might be running long enough during that period of time that bringing in that potentially hot, humid air is not going to affect the relative humidity in the home. Now, if it does come in and starts being distributed throughout the entire house and the relative humidity goes up, then the dehumidifier is going to come on, activating that compressor and removing the moisture from the air. So the ventilation is just based on activating that fan and bringing in that outdoor air. And again, really important, we've got that MERV 13 filter in here that's going to do really good filtration of that air, not only coming from the house, but also from the outside when it is running. And again, we've got a colder climate here illustration to indicate again, we're not just bringing in that cold outdoor air and distributing it through the house. We are tempering it with the air inside. And that, we got the 8-inch here, but these other two are 10-inch ducts. The return and supply to the dehumidifier are 10-inch ducts.
Nikki, just to add to that, how we did that mixing calculation, that's an enthalpy average. So it's not just for averaging temperatures. It has to do with RH and, enthalpy of each airstream. So that's how we got to that 7760 and 5365.
Sure. And we're now, traditionally in the past, we had said you could bring in with our 6-inch duct approximately 1/3 of the total CFM. Now we're closer to 40%, correct?
Yeah. If you look at the cross-sectional area of each of the 8-inch versus the 10, it's much more of the percentages now with that fresh air. If you're wide open on your power damper or whatever damper you do, yep.
Great, thank you. So what does this look like? I took the current ASHRAE 62.2, which the most current one is 2025, at 0.4 inches of static for a 2,200 square foot home with 3 bedrooms. And I took our most current Ultra V100, the Santa Fe Ultra 98, and then the unit that has the same features as ours, but they have that 6-inch comparable to the Ultra 98, the Honeywell 90. And this is data off of their newest models here. And what we need in order to meet this ASHRAE calculation is 96 CFM. So putting into the diagram here, we can get 135 no problem out of that Ultra V at 0.2. And then at 0.2, we were about 99. Now, the Honeywell unit is only going to give us the amount of CFM at 0.5, but at the 0.4, which is pretty common in a lot of HVAC systems, we have no problem meeting this ASHRAE 62 requirement of 96 CFM at that 0.4. Obviously not a problem at 0.2, and actually all the way up to 0.6, we would be able to meet this ventilation requirement with the new Ultra V100. And also, if you're not aware, the new ASHRAE 62.2 2025 requires MERV 11 ventilation, MERV 11 filtration on all ventilation now. So obviously we have no problem meeting that with our units. And then if we look at the V125 going up to 2,800 square feet with a 3-bedroom home, we're going to need about 114 CFM of ventilation air. And again, you know, we're struggling with our ultras with the 6-inch ventilation duct in order to meet this increasing CFM ventilation rates for indoor air quality. So not a problem at all with this new V125. You know, at 0.6, not gonna make it there. We're gonna have to figure out something with our duct work, but again, no problem any other way. And then that Honeywell 120 with that 6-inch still is bringing in about 60, and we could not meet that with our old Ultra 120. So one thing that we want to make sure that everybody is aware of, we've got a 6-year total peace of mind warranty on all of our dehumidifiers. And this includes a 5-year full replacement plus a 1-year parts on all of our dehumidifiers. And then we just launched a new dehumidifier performance calculator that is on our website. And it has all of the new V-Series units listed in this pull down here. So you can choose what model and the incoming temperature and relative humidity. And this is going to give you what you can expect performance-wise from this dehumidifier. And again, this will be all the V-Series units, and you can actually add another one at the bottom and compare to on the same page. In the email follow-up that we're sending you, we will actually provide you this web address that will link directly to this new performance calculator on our website. And if you're not already signed up, please sign up on our website. You can see up here for this contractor portal. Actually, I think we call it a pro portal now. And when you register for this, you'll have access to all of our webinars, including this one, which should be up there early next week, and a lot of other tools and resources as well that aren't found on our website. And this is what that registration will look like when you click on that. You can just sign up with an email and a password. You'll automatically get an email, which will probably go into your spam. So look in there, and it'll have you change your password through that email. You know, and I think the key takeaway from this, as we innovate our dehumidifiers and look at where our construction practices are going, where our energy efficiency is going of our HVAC systems, and where codes are going, is people want homes that are safe, healthy, durable, comfortable, and efficient all the time. And that is really what has driven us to develop this new V-Series whole house ventilating dehumidifiers, is really to focus on the indoor air quality that that people deserve in their homes and that we know that our contractors really want to be able to provide. And now we'll look at take any questions here. Also, as a heads up, coming in December, we will be teaming up with our engineering team to provide another webinar, and we're going to focus on technical training on the V series, and we'll be addressing installs and also walking through wiring diagrams as well. So watch for that email to come out in the next couple of weeks. All right, so we're going to look at our Q&A here. Let's see here. How does the alarm work? That was one of the questions on the 205, Dan, that had the alarm and that terminal block.
Yeah, the alarm for that V205 on the terminal block, that's really for if you want to monitor if there's an error that pops up on the unit. If you have multiple units installed, maybe in a like commercial application, and you want to be able to monitor and see if any of them have a critical error, we can send a signal to say, hey, there's an error on this machine. So it's really not used for any install of the unit itself. It's more for the monitoring of units.
All right, and another question is, how difficult is it to clean coils 1, 2, and 3?
So on depending on the unit, but you'd have to take like for the V100, the V125, and the V155, you'd have to remove the side panels, top panels to have access to the full coil. It's like Nikki said, the coil one's a microchannel, coil two is a tube and fin, and coil three is a microchannel. They are pretty close together. They're about half-inch spacing. So you can get in between the coils if you want to clean them. So it's not terribly difficult, but would require some space to take it apart and do that. But doable for sure. They're all over the drain pan and stuff like that, so all the water would run out of the unit through the normal drain port at that time.
Sure. On that ASHRAE chart, for that 0.5 static column, we do not provide our statics at 0.5. We do the 2, 4, and 6. In Honeywell's manual, they just offered what their CFM was at 0.5, and that's why I added the 0.5 column. I'm sure that we could probably get the 0.5 CFM as well if somebody were needed that. But that's the only reason is typically in our data on our spec sheets and stuff, we do the 2, 4, and 6. So the compressor will not engage if the outdoor air is higher than the set point, correct? That is correct. We do not automatically dehumidify outdoor ventilation air. Typically, it's a smaller amount of air. And when you look at the cubic footage of a home, when we're delivering that outdoor ventilation air, the home a lot of times might not be affected by that relative humidity of that outdoor air to the point where we have to activate the dehumidifier. Running the compressor on the dehumidifier to dehumidify ventilation air in residential applications can be very energy intensive and also create a lot of heat problems, because as a byproduct of dehumidifying, we are generating heat that would also go into that home. So what we really care about is what is the relative humidity in the home, where the people are, and as soon as it gets above our set point, then we will dehumidify the entire home.